Hey everybody, it's Eric again, and we are going to be starting the welding of the quarter panel today. And first order of business is going to punch a bunch of holes in here for the plug welds. I use my fancy flanger slash plug weld cutter for that. It's a pretty handy tool if you have one. Make sure you use the right part, like so. Go around like so. And my phone rings. Alright, so the problem with that punch tool is it doesn't go very far down. All these places I marked with an X here we have to re-drill because it wasn't far enough over, so and then I'm going to have to weld all those holes shut. Awesome! Alright, we have weld-through primer everywhere where the metal is going to be hidden. We won't be able to see it again. On little tabs everywhere. Along the bottom here. You can see that. Let's see here. I don't know if you can see that. Up through there. Quarter panel itself. I went through and put weld-through primer all around the edge here, even though this is a butt weld, just for added protection. That's the flange weld across the top, and that's covered. The inside here, all the way around, and excuse me, everywhere we're going to be welding we tried to grind away the EDP coating or epoxy depending on what's there, to try and make the welds cleaner. So it's ready to go. We just have to let this stuff flash off and cure here for about 10 minutes and then we can start welding. Alright, so as we're getting ready to start welding here, I was cleaning up this edge and I remembered there's some brazing inside here which you cannot weld to, and this is pretty obliterated here anyway, so we're going to cut that piece out. This is the leftover piece of the quarter panel where we cut it off here, so I'm going to stitch this piece in here instead. Try and rebuild that edge a little bit. It's going to be a big gap there, which I will have to fill in with metal, but is what it is, as Mark would say. Alright, she's all clamped in and ready to go. All the lines look pretty good. We checked them as we're going across here. This one, kind of important right here. Looks pretty nice. This stuff's a little sloppy here, so we're just going to basically hold it in place with the hammer and magnets and stuff as we go, to try and get all that lined up. This edge looks good down here. And same thing, we're going to take a hammer and press this down as we go here to make sure this edge is nice and tight. This edge is pretty tight here in terms of the gaps, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. One thing I might do when we get here again is just take the hammer, tap it down a little bit to make sure this is a low spot right here. We definitely don't want a high spot right there, because you come along later and try and do the body work on that. If you have a big ridge right here, that's going to suck. So we got to make sure that's a low spot. And that's it. It's funny, you can see brand new panel here, and you can see all the ripples in it down there. As Roger, Mr. Fireman's always talking about, none of these things are straight, even though fresh out of the box they're not straight. All right, anyway, we're going to start welding. All right, so we're going to put just a few tack welds in here to try and hold this thing in place. Hopefully it doesn't move around too much as we're welding, because the gaps are pretty tight everywhere. A lot of time the metal shrinks when you weld it, so it'll open the gap up, which is what I'm hoping, because it is pretty tight at the back. So we're going to start here, get this where we want it, and then move our way back from there. Where's my pliers? Pliers? Worked?
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. And we're going to check our edges here. So that spot right there is a little high. Cut that down.
Are you recording now?
Yeah. Again, we want to make sure we don't have any high spots when we're doing this, because that makes body work really hard. Again, we want to keep the metal cool. Don't warp it. I'm real happy with that spot right there. It'll be okay. It's a little low on this edge right here, but I can fill that in with the metal, so that's fine. This hasn't moved on me. Still good. I'm going to go down to the bottom and put a few down there. Alright, we have this edge done all the way down here, looking pretty good. Locked it down right at the bottom there to get everything where I want it. Get an idea of how the edges look. Run along there. Let's see. It all looks pretty good. I wish I had cut that replacement piece a little bigger, because this thing's still caved in pretty far right here. It should have gone a little wider, but that's okay. I can build this back up. The most important thing was to get that the bronze out of there from the brazing. I've heard when you hit that with a welder it explodes, and I didn't want to find out myself. So anyway, okay, so now we're going to start walking down the panel this way. I'm not getting very good penetration there, so I'm going to turn up the current a little bit on the welder. And that blew a hole, so that's really touchy. Alright, so this edge did end up being too tight back here, and it was starting to not behave the way I wanted, so I took the air saw through here and opened up this gap. A little too much right there, so that I can get this metal to go where I want. Because it felt like it wanted to peek out right there, and that's the last thing I wanted, so that even, yeah, that helped. This piece was sticking down too far right here because it was all getting warped. So we should be good now. Well, what can you say here? You know, the same welder on the same settings. You get some nice little welds. And you get some of these big ugly things that just explode. I mean, all kinds of gnarly stuff. But like this. I'm still not very good at welding, obviously, but we're getting there. So just walking around, do probably four welds spaced out pretty far, and then blow the panel off, clean it. Just cleaned all the welds off to see what they look like. I marked down my welder settings here for this weld, because when I go around and do the plug welds and stuff, I've got to change the settings, so I wanted to make sure I could remember what it was when I came back to it. But it's looking pretty good. I think I might attempt to do some of these plug welds down here to lock the bottom in. I've just been going around the outside of the panel, and it's pretty well locked in place, and I'm not going anywhere, so I'll put a few of those in. Alright, we're going to call it a day there, show you how far we got. So we cut this piece out here. This is the trim piece to go back in there. I may not end up using this and just fabricate something, since this isn't really going to do the trick anyway. It's too small, but we'll see. So we got this guy welded in all the way around there. We got all the plug welds done. I may have to revisit a couple of them and just to make sure they're all sealed properly and everything. There's some like right there, and there's still some of the holes that were there from where I drilled it in the wrong place that I have to fix. The panel's actually going to get cut off right about here, so that one's going to go away. The welds are done in there. I did those from the inside here. That was not easy, but I did. Came around the back, got this tacked in everywhere, and I started working on this. This is pretty well done here. I just have to do the finish grinding and stuff on it. This back piece went around the corner here, stitched up most of it. Still got a little bit of work left to do. Welded this guy up. That's it. So it is completely locked down where it's supposed to go. It's nice and solid. Everything's good. Happy where it all ended up. Nothing really moved around on me while I was doing it. This is where I took that saw through to open that gap, like you see, and maybe it closed up a little bit right here. Yeah, it actually looks like it did. So that's good. That shows you, if I hadn't opened that gap up right there, that would have been a pinch point there, and that metal would have had to have gone somewhere. And I opened this up all the way through here too, and you can see that closed up too. So it actually did close up quite a bit. Yeah, it did. So that's good. I'm glad I put that cut in there, otherwise I would have been screwed. That might be a high spot right there. Might have to tap that down. But anyway, it's in good shape. It's all looking good. I've just been sort of standing back and admiring it because it's the first time in a very long time that's actually had a complete quarter panel on it. I tore into that pretty early on, and even before that, of course, it was all rusty and trashed up there, so I knew it was bad. So it's nice to actually be able to see all the way down the line of the car and see metal instead of holes. That's pretty cool. So that's going really well. No issues yet, knock on wood. I got a bunch of work I have to do at work, so I'm doing some contract work right now. So I'm not going to be able to get to this right away. I wanted to take a break from that stuff today and just spend a few hours on the car. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, though, this will all be wrapped up. My dad and I just went over the list here. I hadn't been crossing things off in a long time, and we went nuts on this thing. I actually did a whole bunch of work on here that would never marked off. So it did good. You know, about more than half of that list is gone. So pretty soon we're going to be able to erase that list and start a new one again. So that's good. Anyway, that's hopefully all looking good there. And we'll pick it up next time, and it's probably 2 more days of work to get this done. Because again, you can't rush this. You got to take your time. So it's pretty slow going because you got to keep it cool. You can't grind on it too much, can't weld on it too much, you know, keep blowing air on it. So it's a pretty slow process, but I'm liking the way it's coming along. So thanks everybody. Take it easy, and I will talk to you soon.